Hi everyone and welcome to this evening's webinar and welcome back to anyone who was here on the 17th of October and welcome to anyone who is joining us for the first time this evening. So today we are on session 2 of our three-part series of Master the New Primary Maths Curriculum, and today we are going to be looking at play and the primary maths curriculum in junior classes, so from junior to second class. So there's quite a lot to get through this evening. It was so hard to figure out what to cut and what to include. So we will have a Q&A, same as the first session. I'm hoping to get there for about 10 to 7. So if you do have any questions throughout, if you use the Q&A function, that would be brilliant. I can't see them as they come in, so I won't be able to get to them until the end. And just similar to last session, if you maybe wait towards the end, I might, maybe any question you have, I might, answer towards the end. So with that, we're going to get started. So we're going to have a very, very quick look at, where has play come from? We know it's always been there, but it really is the buzzword at the moment. So in the primary curriculum framework, so that red document that we all got academic year before last, they have a whole page. So page 25 of that document is completely devoted to play across all subject areas, so not just maths. And they basically discuss that, that there's a clarity and certainty to the importance of play in our teaching and our learning, and that play and the playful approach is really, really important. They discuss that play and playful approaches in schools generally happen in three different ways. So play that is completely led by children. So, they decide, what they're going to play with, how they're going to play it, who they're going to play with. Playful activities that are planned for and led by us, the teachers. So, we're providing them with that playful learning experience, and we're providing them with the resources, the games, the songs, and so on. And then at times when the teacher and the children share a play activity, developing the play together. So that's obviously that's a very, very brief overlook of it in the primary curriculum framework, but it is very, very central to all of our teaching and learning going forward. Then if we move on here then to our primary maths curriculum, we know that it has a huge place in the primary maths curriculum. So if you think back to our 1999 curriculum, we had our content objectives, and our content objectives all started with the child should be enabled to. That sentence then has now changed, and we now have, through appropriately playful and engaging learning experiences, the child should be enabled to X, Y, and Z. So it's used to introduce all of the learning outcomes across all 4 stages of the primary maths curriculum. So that's telling us that all of the learning outcomes in the primary maths curriculum should be taught through appropriately playful and engaging learning experiences. Then in that image there below, that kind of jigsaw image, we had a quick look at this in the first session, and then you'd probably be very familiar with this anyway from your IDGA training. These are the 5 key pedagogical practices, and we know that one of them, there's no hierarchy to them. And one of them is encouraging playfulness. Now, we know again that we're very much encouraged to use all 5 of them together in our lessons, and that we don't, prioritize one over the other. But one of them is to encourage playfulness. So why is play so important? So, why is it so central to the framework, and why is it so central to the curriculum? So children have both the right and the desire to play. Okay, they want to play. It's innate in them. Play offers us opportunities to engage with children in meaningful ways. And, I think we know that ourselves, from engaging in play with our pupils, that it's much more engaging. When we do any type of play with them, they're a lot more curious. They're asking questions. They're looking for answers. Incorporating this playfulness into the learning helps children develop a positive attitude towards maths. So, if we think about that, all of these games and all of these playful approaches, it makes the children want to do the lessons, So if they're used to having a playful approach to maths, and you say, okay, we're going to do maths, they're going to get excited. They're going to have a positive attitude towards it. And obviously, play is age appropriate to them, so it helps them to stay engaged in the learning process. Math learning is enhanced. So play it's an interactive element. It's an inclusive element. Once we have supportive play environments, it can encourage exploration, creativity, choice. We hear a lot about that with play, giving our pupils autonomy over how they play and how they learn. and as well as independence. Play serves as a context for developing, mathematical thinking, mathematical language, all of that talking, all of that cooperative playing that they're doing. It helps to develop mathematical concepts and then fostering maths talk. There's a quote there on the screen. You've probably heard this before. It does the rounds a lot. And it's by Dan Finkel. He, if you're familiar with Math for Love, he created that. And he's kind of a leading kind of maths expert in education. And his quote here: "What books are to reading, play is to maths." And I think when we think about that as teachers, when we're teaching reading, we really understand the importance of books, and we wouldn't teach reading without having an abundance of books available. So that's the approach that we need to take to maths, that we need to have an abundance of play available. So what does that look like then for us? Because it is the big buzzword at the moment. And is it that they are just playing all the time, that they're not engaging with anything else? And no, that's not the case. There's two parts to it. There's playful and engaging, and they both cover a wide variety of teaching that we're already doing. And I think when we kind of break it down here, we will begin to realize, oh, we're actually doing all of this, and it all comes under playful and engaging maths lessons. So we're going to look at maths through stories. So how do you teach maths through stories? How do you source the stories? What does the research say? And why is it such an effective way to teach maths? The obvious one, I suppose, that you think of when you think of play, we're going to look at games. So we're going to look at, the games with rules, having games throughout our lessons, providing them with chances to do, free play with games. We're also going to look at, so again, think if we also have engaging as well as playful. We're going to look at the use and choice of maths manipulatives. So why is having a variety of maths manipulatives, so important for the engagement of our students? Songs and rhymes, and again, anyone who's down the junior end will probably be able to list off 10 off the top of their head, and we know how engaging these are to the children anyway at this age. So we're going to have a quick look at where we can source some songs and rhymes. Hopefully there's some new ones on tonight. And then finally, we're going to end tonight with looking at the use of digital tools and technology, and how digital tools and technology can provide a playful and engaging maths lesson for our pupils. And just to say, everything that I show you tonight is going to be on the Padlet that I shared with you last week. It'll also be sent out again tomorrow. So don't, just sit back and relax, and everything will be sent to you. So you don't have to be, looking for links and copying and pasting them. Everything will be sent to you. So we're going to have a quick look at maths through stories. So just very, very, very quickly, what is the research telling us on this? So why is teaching maths through stories so important? So this document here was released by the NCCA in 2014. It's Maths in Early Childhood and Primary Education for children aged 3 to 8. It's a fabulous document if you're kind of looking into the research side of maths. And it also was a huge factor in creating the primary maths curriculum. So what do they say about maths through stories? So the research is telling us that the use of story in our maths lessons, which, important to know, can be paper-based or digital. So, it's not a literacy lesson, so they can access the maths content in a digital way as well. So we don't have to have these, physical hard copies of the books. They can provide enjoyable and meaningful context for exploring and developing maths content and concepts. Okay, so you can, yourself, think of a story. They're going to be more engaged, and there's probably going to be a problem if it's a math story and they have to solve it. The research is also telling us that engaging with mathematical-based storybooks can lead to improved performance in mathematically rich tasks because it's age appropriate for them, okay? They're able to relate to a story. It's because it's going to be pitched to their age. And then finally, the use of storybooks encourages the use of maths-related language, particularly among young children. And we know that ourselves from, any type of picture book or storybook that we read young children, that it's encouraging their language anyway. So when we look at this through a maths lens, it's encouraging that maths language even further. So where do we get these stories? So the first one we're going to look at is mathsthroughstories.org, and I have all of this linked in the Padlet. So mathsthroughstories.org is a fabulous website. It's based out of the University of Reading in the UK. So we'll have a quick look at it here. So this is the homepage. And to find the recommendations, I actually have this particular page linked for you, actually, the recommendations part, not the homepage, because this is the part that I use the most. So when you scroll down the recommendations, it's broken into like subsections, like the topics and subsections of maths topics. Now, just obviously, it is based out of the UK, so it's not going to 100% correlate with our curriculum, but it's very, very easy to follow. So I scroll down here, like you can see, it's absolutely, it's huge. There's so much to it. So it's broken down into topic as well. Um, and they have like different books down the end. So when you go into a specific topic, so if we look here at patterns. So if I'm doing algebra and I'm looking at patterns, you click in here and it basically gives you suggestions. Now, personally, I would ignore the age group, to be honest. I have used this website for years and years, and I have had first class using stories that say 3 and plus. I've had senior infants using stories that say 7 and plus. I wouldn't worry about that too much. So it gives you an example of some stories broken down by age. Now, what it doesn't do is it doesn't give you the story. So you have to source the book yourself. But what the important for me, I think the important part is see these two questions here. Is the mathematical focus explicit in the story? Yes. So that's basically telling me that this story was, written to teach a specific maths concept. So it's going to be very maths heavy, and the children are going to do a lot of maths talk in it. And then the second question, is this story part of a maths story series? Yes. Okay, so it's telling me that it's part of the Math Start series. Now you can't, if the link brings you to Amazon to buy it. So yeah, you can't access it here. So what I personally do is, again, if you think back to the research, they don't need a physical copy of this for maths. The majority of them are on stories that I've been looking for are on YouTube as a read aloud, and I just mute it, pause it, and flick through it myself as if I'm reading it to them. And another one is archive.org. If you're familiar with that, it's an online free library to borrow. I've used it over the years, and in general, it doesn't have every story, but I have found it quite good over the years. It was particularly useful actually during lockdown teaching. We won't mention that. So that's like, obviously I know I'm going through this quite quick, and hopefully when you get the Padlet that you can go through this in a lot more detail yourself. If we have a look at this one here, Hooray for Fish. So this one's different now. So it says, is the mathematical focus explicit in the story? No. So that's telling me before I've even looked at the story, it's telling me, okay, this is not a math story, but I can kind of see by the cover, it obviously has lots of patterns in it. It's obviously under the pattern section. And then is the story part of a math story series? No. So this is just a picture book. And the great thing is, as you're going through your recommendations, you'll probably start to see lots of stories that you already had, as part of like your literacy lessons or your SESE lessons, that you will be able to use. The other as well, if you go into resource, I'm not going to go into this just because we're so tight for time. They do also have lesson ideas, and they are a great start as well. Okay, so that's Maths True Stories. So definitely take some time over before the next session to go through that. Math Start, this is another way to source your stories. This is fabulous if you're not familiar with it. So it's an American organization, and they are maths books written by Stuart J. Murphy. I've just put screenshots there of ones that I've used, and they're very, very child friendly, and they teach a specific topic. This, again, you have access to this on Padlet. This PDF is brilliant. So this PDF basically tells you, don't worry about the ages again, because it doesn't link to our curriculum. But look at it tells you the name of the story and what topic it covers. So this has saved me so much time over the years when I'm looking for, one of these maths, because there's 63 of them. So it just tells you very quickly what they cover, and then you can go and obviously source it. They are available secondhand on Amazon. You can all of them are actually available on YouTube, and Stuart J. Murphy himself actually reads them out. So it just saves you a bit of time, because sometimes the covers can be a bit deceiving, and you might think it's about something else. But you have access to this PDF on Padlet as well. So we've had Maths True Stories, we've had Math Start, and then we're also going to look at the Mighty Maths, the interactive stories. Okay, so this is kind of unique to Mighty Maths, and you all have access to Gill Explore until January. So across the junior infants, senior infants, first class and second class, we have between 8 to 10 stories for each year, for each book. Um, we again, you have access to this document here. We have just made a very quick and easy kind of guide to follow. So you can see in junior infants, top unit 1 to 16, it shows you where to find the stories, especially now that you have access to Gill Explore. It's kind of a handy little guide. So we don't have one for every topic every year, but across the 4 years, every topic is covered. So if you have Mighty Maths from junior infants and they use it right up to second class, they will have had a story for every topic covered over the 4 years, if that makes sense. So I'm going to show you some of them now, but I would highly recommend taking time to look through these before the next session. Just digital, just to bear in mind, the majority of them are up. There are still 1 or 2 that are not uploaded yet, but they will be very soon. So for example, I know, see Unit 9 in first class, mismatched hands. I know that one's not up yet, but it's going to be up very soon. So if you do go to look for it and it's not up there, maybe just look for another one and you can come back and look for it, before the next session. But the majority of them are up there. So the math stories for Mighty Maths, so they have it down here with the kind of blue box. There's 3 modes to each story. So there's a story mode, which obviously tells a story. There's a math size mode then. So there's between 5 and 6 questions on the story, and they have to use their math size and their maths talk to find the answer. And then they have a figure it out or a pupil's book questions. So some of the stories link to the pupil's book, like a kind of listen and respond activity. And then some of them just have, you say, 6 questions, and it's a more kind of detailed question, more so the math size. So I'm going to show you on your Gill Explore how to access these. So you should have access to Gill Explore now. If you don't, if you've just signed up for this session, you should have access in the next couple of days. So my dashboard obviously has all 4 of them. You will have access to whichever class you're teaching at the moment. So if I go to first class. Now to find the stories, so you're going to go to digital library. And you're going to look back at that document that I just had up where it tells you which unit they have. And we'll have a look at unit 2. And this is the story mode. So this is how you'll know if you found the story. It has a book and it says interactive maths story. Okay, now not just because of time, I'm not going to play the story, but this is story mode where it tells you the story. So they're between kind of 2 to 4 minutes. This particular story, like it kind of changes scenes. This particular story is about children who are at a sleepover. It's for 2D shapes. And there's a power cut and they end up making 2D shapes on the wall with torches and it's quite interactive, like the story kind of stops and they have to make shapes with their hands and it asks the children, oh, can you make these shapes with your hands? And so on. So that's the story mode. Then there's a math size mode for each story as well. And they have to look at the picture. So now I don't think I shared my sound on this. So I don't think I shared the sound, but that question said, what time of day does the story take place? So obviously it zooms in and the children have to use their math size and their math talk to say, okay, well, I think it takes place at nighttime. Why? Well, because the moon and the stars are out. So there's 6 math size questions and then there's 6 figure it out questions. And some of them will relate to the pupil book, but this is all explained in detail in, the teacher manual that you have access to as well. So examples on this, it'll say, what age or what month is it? And it'll zoom in to this and it'll say it's September. It'll ask, what shapes can you see in the room? What shapes did, I think her name is Ava in the story. And what shapes did she use for her drawing? What age is she? And so on. So they're very interactive and they're under the digital library if you're accessing them. So definitely have a look at this document that will be on the Padlet. And like have a look and see if there's stories that you could use that you've already covered, and maybe you've already covered 2D shapes, you could go back and play it again. Okay, so we're going to move away from stories and we're going to move on to songs and rhymes. So the research tells us that songs and rhymes help develop counting, number sense, spatial awareness, and elements of geometry. Okay, and that's from that document that I shared at the beginning. So the first link we have here is to counting songs. And again, there probably isn't anything too new here to anyone who has been, in junior classes. So these are videos of, the typical kind of nursery rhymes and songs for learning the numbers 1 to 10. They have lovely little visuals on them. And this again, this link is on the Padlet wall. So there's lots of lovely little videos and songs there. We also have rhyme. So this is just a screenshot taken from the junior infants book, the Mighty Maths Junior Infant Pupil book, and teaching number formation in a rhyme. So around and back on a railway track, 2, 2, 2. Things like shape songs, super simple songs. I love these super simple songs. I love the pitch that they have for junior classes. So if you're familiar with super simple songs, and again, these are all linked for you. You can shoot. They're all on YouTube, but I actually like their website because you can, if you go up to the teaching section, you can actually choose by theme as well. So like if you're doing shapes, it gives you little videos and then songs as well for shapes. So they're all on YouTube anyway, but they're nice stuff on that website as well. Number blocks, oh, my love of number blocks. It's just, I'm sure we're all familiar with it. So if you're not familiar with number blocks, it's by the BBC. And they all live in number block land, and they actually have very good catchy songs for numbers 1 to 20 and then for number 100. And they're brilliant. Like the shapes all kind of interact with each other, and they join together to make different numbers. And there's just so much maths going on in it. So if you're not familiar with number blocks, absolutely check it out on YouTube. They have loads and loads of episodes, but particularly I think their songs are really, really, really good as well. So then all the typical songs that were, 10 green bottles, all of those that we're all really familiar with. And that's what we want. We want that playful approach through our songs and rhymes. And then again, you have access to all of this until January. So Mighty Maths for the junior and senior infant program. So just the junior and senior infant. We have a selection of songs as well. Okay, so stories, all 4 books. The songs are just for junior and senior infants. So we'll have a quick look here just to show you how to access them. So it will be, if you look in your teacher's manual, it'll obviously tell you, where to access it. So if you're in, unit 2 or unit 4, it can tell you. So I know that particular song I was going to show you is actually in unit 10. And this is what the icon looks like then. So it's like, oh, sorry, I picked the wrong one. So song 9, and then it's a nice little animation as well. And you can make it obviously large screen and things like that. So yeah, there's songs for those in junior and senior infants, and you access them through the digital library. Okay, so that's our songs and our rhymes. Okay, so moving on to games. So we had our stories, we had our songs and our rhymes, and now we're on to the third element, of which is games. So this is probably the one, like I said, that we're probably most familiar with when we think of, well, that I'd be most familiar with, when we think of games, it's probably, or when you think of play, it's probably the one that comes to mind first. So games with rules are really, really good. They provide opportunities for children to work collaboratively and to develop skills of reasoning, problem solving, classifying, and ordering. Okay, so I just took ones there from Mighty Maths, and that was something actually the authors decided, these are actually from the second class one. We wanted these type of games to be in the book because we want the book to be as interactive as possible. So anywhere you see these kind of boxes here or the signs, the game time, these are all those kind of playful approaches to learning. Games like, what's the time, Mr. Wolf, all those kind of old school games that we all did that we're all so familiar with, that's what we want to see in here as well. Games like this, sorting games, this is just taken from my class. We were doing 2D shapes before the Halloween break, and they just had to sort them out, and then they turned it into a memory game themselves. It was just, we were doing stations for it. Okay, things like dice games then. So we had, games with rules. So dice games. So this website here, we're going to be looking at Enrich in a lot of detail in the next session. So I'm not going to go through Enrich today, just maybe become familiar with the name. It's absolutely fabulous for problem solving for those, cognitively challenging tasks. And And what I particularly like about it is that it gives you a problem, but it gives you the student solutions and it gives you the teacher resources as well. So it kind of gives you suggestions on what to say for them. So this particular game, sorry, and you can download it as like a poster as well. That particular game is they have to roll the dice and they have to try fill the boxes with six, and then they get points when they get when they manage to fill a box with six. These type of games, again, this is just these are just taken just from my class, just to show what it's like, you know, in a real life classroom, I suppose. These fish are just from Amazon. They're like a whiteboard on them, and you can use marker and just rub them off. I've had them for ages. They last. They're actually quite sturdy. This was just a game where we were doing subitizing up to six, and I just put dots on it, and they had to roll a dice. And when they had to find the correct one, it's like a little magnet. I don't know if you can kind of see it. There's a magnet at the mouth, and there's a little stick. You absolutely don't need these. You could also do paper ones, and they don't need a magnet. They're well able to use their imagination. They can use a string and a piece and a stick as well. You don't need these ones. They are handy. Games like this, I'm sure we all have that dice. It's the dice where it has the pockets in it. You get them in Mr. Price. They have them all year round, and you can put whatever you want in them. There's also other ones where they have like a whiteboard surface. I don't find those ones great because I think the whiteboard marker rolls off quite easy. So this particular one, again, sorry, this is just from my class. They had to roll a dice, they had to read the word, they read what the 2D shape was, and using the materials on their table, they had to build that shape. Okay, so it's a playful, it's engaging. It's not just drawing shapes for the sake of it. They're building it. And they're talking to each other. They're working collaboratively. This was another game. These were just 10 frames that we had. They're actually Mighty Maths 10 frames. They're from the Maths tools. And they were playing a game at the start of the year. It was first to five. So they had to roll a dice, and the first one to fill five on their 10 frame got a point. And we've extended it each fortnight. So at the moment, we're on the number 7 in my class. So we were, playing with 2 dice, and we're playing first 7. So again, it's play and it's engaging, and they're having fun. And again, I just included a screenshot here. This is just a dice game taken from the first class Mighty Maths book. So again, we wanted it to be as interactive as possible. This is for the number 18. So this is in their workbook. So they play with a friend. They need a dice and a pencil. Each player rolls the dice 3 times, and they draw the dots, and the player closest to 18 wins. Rub it out and play it again. This is another lovely activity from Enrich, and we'll be enriched out of it the next session. This is a lovely game. It's Incy Wincy Spider. So you have a top here. So you have like the drain pipe. So you have the top of the spout and the bottom. So one player is the top, one player is the bottom. And you put a spider, or well, I put a counter in the middle. It could be a spider. And they have to roll a dice, and whoever gets the spider to their section first wins. So really, really simple, but really playful and really engaging. So just important to note as well when it comes to games, and I think we're really good at providing those teacher-led games and those teacher-directed games, but it's also important that we do give them opportunities to use, to have playful experiences in maths in a free way. So these are just, again, examples so this was Play-Doh. They were playing with Play-Doh before the midterm break, and they weren't actually making shapes. Now, one child did this, not, the 24 children in my class didn't do this. One child did it, but she called me over and she had been using the stencils. Now, they were just doing free play, and she took Play-Doh out. And she just called me over and she said, oh, look what I did with the shape. She had like a little Play-Doh tool. And it was just, we had this, maybe 30-second to a minute conversation about what she had done. And she had said to me here, so she said, oh, look, I made 2 rectangles. I made 2 triangles out of my square. And then she got to the circle and she just said, I don't know what a half a circle is, because we hadn't done semicircle. It wasn't, we weren't learning that for 2D shapes. So I just told her, I said, oh, it's called a semicircle. I didn't turn it into a maths lesson. But the reason I took a photo was because I thought it was a really good example of that how, in free play, they can sometimes, not always, choose to go down that route with maths. Lego, we all have tons of it in our class. It's brilliant for spatial awareness. And again, we were doing 2D shapes at the time, so there was lots of talk about, these look like rectangles and, all of that. Again, these are just pictures. Then they were playing. This was just free play. They had been playing with the animals. You can see the elephant, the farm animals, and the zoo animals there. And then they had asked if they could take out the sorting animals and things like that we had, to add to their zoo slash farm. And then they just started sorting them themselves. So it just shows that children, they have that kind of innate play in them. And they were building car parks, and they were building rectangles and dens and all of this for the animals. And then a great way to get maths into free play is water play. Just giving them containers. So I just have loads of like those protein scoop things as well, and those like little containers, plastic containers, and they have little pipettes there. And just watching them fill it, and they'll often say to each other, "Oh, this 3 scoops went into this one, and oh, 4 scoops it overflowed." And it's not a maths lesson; it's just getting them into that. It's that free play, and it comes to them naturally. Okay, so we're going to move on to just keep an eye on the time there. So we're going to look at some digital tools and technology. Um, so again, sorry, I know I'm flying through this. I just wanted to give you as much as I could in this session. So we've had stories, we've had songs and rhymes, we've had games, and now we are going to look at digital tools and technology. We're going to start off looking at virtual manipulatives. So virtual manipulatives are your like online cubes and number lines and 10 frames and counters. So all of your concrete materials that we have, they're online versions of those. They kind of exploded onto the scene during COVID because, obviously children didn't have access to all of those physical tools at home. So I think we're all really, really familiar with them over the last couple of years. So the great thing about them is, what I personally love about them is they offer unlimited access to these materials. So I know in my class, like I don't have unlimited access to counters, and I don't have unlimited access to, 10 frames and all of this. So you can get these readily available online. And so while virtual manipulatives are valuable, the effectiveness of them largely depends on the discussions around them. Okay, so and that's an important point. Just a quick side point to make as well is that direct teaching is still really important in the primary maths curriculum. And sometimes, just personally, I think there's a huge emphasis on play, which is important, but just that direct teaching is still really important. So that discussion that we have around them. So these are examples of them. The Math Learning Center, they all do the same thing. It's just about which preference you have for them. Okay, so you have like there's money, there's number pieces, there's 10 frames. Again, I have all these linked on the Padlet, but they all do the same thing. ICT Games have a teacher tools section, teaching tools, and they have, the Rec and Recs, the 10 frames, Abacus, place value pieces, again, very similar to the Math Learning Center. And we're going to have a look now in a second at the Mighty Maths toolkit, because again, you have access to that on Gill Explore. Didax is the same. Again, it's just preference, whichever one you like. Some of them as well, I find, because we have iPads in school, so some of them are just easier on iPads, especially kind of for, little hands at 6. It's kind of easy. Some of them are just easier. And then I think a huge favorite of teachers is Toy Theatre. And we're looking at the teacher tool section here. So I particularly like Toy Theatre because it's really visual and it's really easy for the children to find which tool you're looking for. So again, it has, your pattern blocks, it has spinners, dice, number lines, tangrams. I know if you go down here, yeah, there's 10 frames, 2-color 10 frames, the counting bears. So again, it's really easy to kind of get overwhelmed with all these websites, but effectively they all do the same thing. It's just preference. So we're going to have a look at the Mighty Maths Toolkit. So how you access that, so it's across all 4 levels. I'm just going to click into senior infants out of habit because I have senior infants this year. And it is down in this drop-down menu, so Mighty Maths Toolkit. So I use this for my direct teaching. Okay, that's just how I use it. So I have it up on the board. An example of how I was using it today in my class is my class had 10 frames in front of them, and I had this 10 frame open. And so we're doing number 7 at the moment. So they were in
Sorry,
pairs and
Sarah.
they had their red counters and blue counters. And I
Sarah,
would
can you
have
hear
this
me?
on the board
Sorry, Sarah.
as a direct teaching. So, we were adding counters, and then we were making, check, and you can cover and things like that. So you don't have to show the sum straight away. So that's kind of how I use it for my direct teaching. I know just there was a few questions. There was a slight bug on this at the start of September where it wasn't working on some whiteboards. So they actually debugged it straight away, but you have to delete your cache or your cookies, and it should work straight away because it was sorted out, I think, the third or fourth day in September. How else do we use this? Again, I use this kind of in my direct teaching, so it's great for sorting. So you've got your sorting circles.
Eric, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. We can just see your face. We can't actually see your screen. So I'm not sure if you were meant to be sharing screen there.
Oh, I am sharing, yeah. Okay, 1 second. Can you see that now?
I can just see you, but I see in the chat. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I'm just looking at you. The chat has the attendees can see the screen. Sorry, apologies.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. I'll go back into that there. Do I have it open still? So that's how I personally use it. I use it for my, oh, I have it still open here, for my direct teaching. So we have your sorting circles here. You've got your bears, your cars. So let's keep in mind the time here. But if you do have any issues with the toolkit or any of the digital at any time, get onto the Gill Digital and they'll get back to you really fast. I know we had a few people saying that in the chat that they sorted things out really quickly. But yeah, oftentimes you just have to delete your cache and your cookies, excuse me, and it'll come back. Great for money. I particularly like it for this when we're going to be doing money. I think it's really hard, I think, with virtual manipulators to find real coins. Very often it's the, like the kind of cartoon animation coins. So have a play around with it yourself, like you have free access to it. And then in the teacher manual, it gives you examples in each lesson how to use the toolkit as well. So if you're a little bit lost with it at the moment, check out the teacher manual, which you also have access to on Gill Explore if you're not on the Mighty Maths program yet. So using maths manipulatives then, so the major benefit of manipulatives comes, as we said, from the discussion that goes on around them. Okay, so using them in my class, we just call them tools. You don't have to call them tools. You can call them whatever suits your class, but they should be really accessible to children. Okay, so it shouldn't be a case that they're not sure how to use counters or they're not sure how to use cubes or sticks or anything. And we just to show you how you would use them, maybe these little green or these orange tip boxes. These are all just screenshots from multiple Mighty Maths books. And we have these scattered throughout the pupil book to get them into you, because we want them using the maths manipulative. So, use your 10 frame encounters to help you, use cubes to help you, use real counters to help you. Real counters is because there was a picture of counters, like a cartoon in the page, and use real counters or number line to help you. Okay, and then these are just images then from below of what manipulatives look like in action. And again, these can be accessed digitally. So if you don't have access to, a massive box of cubes like that, access them digitally. So again, digital and playful content from Mighty Maths. So again, just make the most of all of this while you have it till January. So we have these number formation videos. So this is one from junior infants, and it gives a little video of, I'll show you here. So, and you'll know what unit this is in from the teacher manual. So it's all accessed in the digital library. Scroll down and here, so number formation. And again, no, sorry, I had an issue trying my sound there earlier, but there's a little rhyme with it. You'll hear it yourself if you manage it. This was from Unit 5. And it's just a nice little video. And you couldn't probably hear that there, but the little Mighty Maths character was saying the little rhyme, the one we saw with the teddy bear, around and back on the on the track 222. He was saying that as well. So they're examples, other examples of digital. This again then, so we have digital games, and you can access all of these. What I particularly like about these games, so if we look at this one, mine were playing this today, Fine 7. You can, if you have access to iPads, you can share this. It's really, really easy to share this. It's great. because this is always something that, like you don't want them just staring at the board while one child goes up. You see this little arrow. If you just press that, it just generates a QR code on the board. So we normally, just my class, normally play one round just to show them how to do it. And then they just access it themselves on the QR code. So they're absolutely brilliant. In first and second class, we have tutorials for certain topics. So we have this one in second class, it's on fractions and it's about sharing into halves and quarters. Unit 8. Oh. There's lovely ones for, like addition with renaming and subtraction with regrouping and all of that. So they're kind of a similar layout to the stories, and I'll just flick through them. You can see they're very animated. So you can have a look at those. And this, I think, is brilliant. So in every single unit in junior, senior, first and second, we provide a grid with 4 playful learning experiences. So this is one that was taken from first class. And you can see them all here. So there's obviously for the 16 units. So, if we click this one here, it just downloads as a PDF for you. And I mean, are these absolutely necessary? No, they're not. They're not. Like, I personally use them for my station, for some of my stations. And they just give you some more playful learning experiences if you're looking for them. Okay. I mean, they're not integral to do, if you're looking at the book, they're not linked to the book necessarily, but they're great if you're looking for extra playful experiences. And things like these Play-Doh mats, these are all, you can see here, resource available to download from Gill Explore. They're all available there under the Playful Learning Experience tab. Okay, so like there's 4 of those for every unit. And then we also have things like the Play-Doh mat. That's just an example of the Play-Doh mat that you can obviously download, print, laminate, and then they can use their Play-Doh on it. Okay, some additional digital tools then. So we had a look at the micromats last week, so hopefully you got a chance to look at that. We're going to be on it next week again when we're looking at problem solving and kind of those cognitively challenging tasks. This is a great, I have this on the Padlet. This is a great tool from Topmarks. It's called Number of the Day, and it's for numbers 1 to 20. So you click on and it gives you a number of the day, but you can also choose your number. So like today's number was 5. So I got, my gang to go onto it, but I asked them to pick 7 because we're looking at 7. And I think there is 5 or 6 things they have to do. Like one of them is they have to do the number formation. One is they have to put the correct number of bees in a flower. One is they have to do a 10 frame. But definitely check it out. And they call it the bee game because that's what it looks like when they go onto it. And they really love it. They're always asking if they can do the bee game. In Rich, we're going to be looking at that next week. It's absolutely brilliant. And I just wanted to show you this quick website here as well. This is from, do you remember the Math Learning Centre that we just looked at? Now, again, I know I flew through stuff. They have a math at home section, and I think it's absolutely brilliant for junior classes. Now, it is American, so it won't correspond to our curriculum, so you'll have to kind of do a little bit of looking yourself. But there's lovely little activities, like would you rather activities for them. So would you rather read 5 books today and 5 books tomorrow, or 8 books today and 1 book tomorrow? Ready to go onto the whiteboard. You don't have to download them. And then there are kind of audios, but they are obviously for use at home as well. Now obviously look, nickels and pennies, we're not going to be looking at that. But what I particularly like is they have these nice little games. So this is a fabulous little game. It's called First to 5. And it's a great game to play as a whole class, like teacher versus the class, or you can do, they can obviously do in pairs. And if you can see down here at the bottom right hand, there's 3 pages. The first page is kind of the instructions, and then the second page is the game. So you spin the counter. So we'll say teacher's going first. Okay, teacher got 2. So teacher's going to bring 2 cubes over. And, you can imagine the excitement then trying to beat the teacher. Okay, and then, someone comes up to spin it. Oh, you got 0. Okay, teacher gets another chance. And it's just like, it's a bit of fun. They're howling, they love it. And this is something that you could obviously also print out and they could play themselves. And then there's another version here with 2 towers, so you can play like first to 10 as well. So yeah, it's great fun, and there's lots of kind of language around it as well. And this is another similar one. Again, these are all in the Padlet workplace fives up, and it's similar to this game that you can play it kind of whole class if you wanted, or they can play it themselves. And basically, it's like a subtitling game with 10 frames. So 10 frames come up, and it's the first who can make five with their 10 frames. They might get a 10 frame with one, then a 10 frame with three, and then, or they might get a 10 frame with five and they win the first round. But it's a bit of fun, and they're all really engaged, especially when it's, beat the teacher. So basically, essentially, after all of that, we want the children actively learning, and we know that we're doing it anyway. We want them to use a range of resources. Okay, so we want them using not just cubes, not just counters. We want them to be using the choice that they want. We want them working collaboratively. We want them thinking critically. We want them making decisions, and we want them being playful. Okay, so that's essentially what we're all doing anyway, and it's essentially what we want to keep doing. So the end of this session. So session 3 will be on the 21st of November, same time, 6 to 7. And we are going to be looking at problem solving and assessment. So it's going to be our final session. We're going to be looking at cognitively challenging tasks, like what are they, where they come from, low threshold, high ceiling tasks, what are they and where to get them, what do they look like in our classrooms. We're going to be looking at maths talk, and we're also going to be looking at, and this was actually requested a lot, maths journaling, because I know it's being endorsed by IDGA for assessment, and it was actually in the survey when we got the feedback from the survey at the end. So I've decided to put maths journaling in. So actually at the end of this, when you sign off, you will be given a survey. So please fill it out, because if there's, quite a demand for something, I have absolutely no problem, putting it into the next session. Like, what happened to the maths journals there. So that's going to be the next session. All resources discussed in today's session are all on Padlet. You will be getting access to recording for the next 7 days. Okay, so you're going to be emailed that tomorrow with a link and a link to the Padlet. And then you all have free access to Mighty Maths until January 2025. So if you haven't, if you're at the last session, you should have been signed up already. If you're new to this session, you should have access within the next 5 working days. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to have a quick look at the questions. I was going to check the time. Okay, not too bad for time. I know we're only supposed to be on to 7, so if you need to go at 7, that's absolutely no problem at all. I'll stay on and see how many of these that I can get through. Okay, Q&A. How do you recommend using digital resources for multi-classes? So first of all, I take my hat off to multi-grade teachers. I haven't done multi-grade, so I don't want to kind of spin you an answer for it. I suppose if anyone has an answer for that, please let us know. But if I was to think of it, I would just try to find the ones that are as familiar as possible. If you're talking, or sorry, as in like that are similar, if you're talking about sharing them, I'm not sure if that's what you mean. Like how would you share, maybe 3 games at once? You could use Classroom Screen. I don't know if you're familiar with that, and you can put up multiple QR codes. You just have to copy and paste the URL. In terms of, you could also do whole class teaching with them. But again, look, I don't want to give you a full answer because I haven't done multi-grade, but if anyone in the chat wants to pop anything in, please do. I don't have access to Mighty Maths resources either. Okay, so I would get on. David, would you know who'd be best to contact about that? I'm not sure now if this person is just new to this session or not.
Yeah, so everyone who attended the first session should have received an email in the days after that from our customer services team with links on how to register for Gill Explore and having their trial set up until January next year. If you haven't received that, if you want to get in touch with myself or your local rep, you can email me directly if you wish. My email address is godwyer@gill.ie, and just send me on your roll number so I can investigate if you haven't been granted the trial access yet. Everyone that was on the first session should have that access. If this is your first session this evening, then you'll get an email from our customer service team in the coming days with links to how to register and log in to Gill Explore to access all of the resources for Mighty Maths.
Perfect, right, thank you. Is there any way to watch session 1? I think you answered those. Yeah. Um, will you be talking about third, fourth class in the next session? So I won't be, as we kind of said in session one, it will just be for junior classes. But a lot of the resources that I spoke about today, you can use them up the senior end. Obviously, they'll have to be adapted. But if you keep an eye out on Gill Education social media, the senior end program is coming out soon, and they will be doing webinars about that. So if you keep an eye, yeah, it's just Gill Education. If you follow them on social media, that's the best place to keep up to date for the senior end. Okay, I answered that. Yeah, and first session was answered. Okay, so anything else there? I think majority of these have actually been answered. Audio, yeah. Yeah, so again, any problems with interaction, just contact digital. Again, as I said, and I was just told this myself when I contacted them, you sometimes have to delete your cache or your cookies. Just go into your history and you can delete it, and then it'll kind of remove the bug that was there. But in terms of sharing the QR codes, that and all that should be perfect. Oh, someone shared some lovely songs there as well. I think we've answered most of these. Yeah. Oh, this is great. I think most of these have been answered. Brilliant. So yeah, just a question then again about the toolkit. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the toolkit can't be shared like for the pupils to use it. It is just for the whiteboard, but they are able to use it themselves on the whiteboard. Um, yeah, some great tips there. So make sure I haven't missed anything here. Someone said struggling with multi-grade too. Yeah. Now, what we will say like about the multi-grade is I know that junior and senior infants are aligned after the unit two. I know unit one and two aren't aligned just because there's topics in junior infants that just can't be covered in senior infants and vice versa. But from unit two onwards, junior and senior infants are completely aligned, that they're both doing number or 2D shapes, 3D shapes at the same time. And then I know that first and second class are completely aligned from unit one upwards. So unit one is the revision one. Obviously, within reason, there's going to be certain topics, like I know in second class, there's obviously certain topics that need a little bit more time. So there might be, maybe 3 or 4 pages in the first class that don't align, but it's just to cover that. I think that's all. I think, how can I access Padlet? It's going to be emailed out to you. So there'll be a link to the Padlet, and all of the excuse me, all of the resources from session one will be on it, and session two as well. Let me see, is there any more? I think there's a few more questions here. Oh, thank you very much as well. Using the program, and it's going really well. Yeah, playful learning experiences. Yeah, they're really, really helpful. They were the 4 playful learning experiences for each unit. Yeah, they'll be brilliant. Will there be hot? Yeah, so the senior end will be coming out in early 2025. Last session's Padlet, you'll be available to you. Yeah, don't worry about that. Yeah, and thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank everyone to everyone for coming out. I know it's so tough the first week back after midterm. Okay, I think I've answered all of the questions there. But yeah, so fill in if you want to fill in the survey, that's the best way as well. If there's anything that you really, really want covered, if there is a demand for it, I have absolutely no problem looking at it in the next session. And I think David, I can see this is coming through a lot. I don't think they can have access to last sessions, can they? There's a few questions still coming in asking for access to last session's recording. I think it was only 7 days, wasn't it?
It was. It was only. Yeah. It was only up there for a certain period. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just the way it works.
But you know what though? Like anything that I spoke about is linked in the Padlet. So it was mainly on the new curriculum. It wasn't necessarily kind of on how to implement it as such. It was very much like the differences between the 1999 and this curriculum. So you should have access to the Padlet.
And everyone and the Padlet contains all the resources from the last session as well. Just to
Yeah.
just
They
confirm
have
that.
access to all, even if they weren't at the last session, they've access to those resources anyway. Yeah. Okay, I think I've gotten through all of those. Yeah. Okay, it's just 7 o'clock now, so we will leave it at that. But as I said, please fill in that survey. It's the best way to kind of get any queries you have across. And I look forward to seeing you all on the 21st. Thank you.